Hello and welcome to the Voice Vibe podcast. My name is Philippe Hall. I'm excited to introduce my guest today to you. And his name is Jordan Mitchell. Jordan and I met about a year ago and we started doing some collaborations together. And it's been very enjoyable. And it's a great story that I think can inspire singers everywhere and has gained some very powerful insights into singing, developing your voice, and also these same insights have empowered him to become quite successful as an entrepreneur. I do believe that a lot of the discipline and the habits that we learn on our singing journey can absolutely be applied to our life's journey. So without further ado, please welcome Jordan Mitchell. Hi, Jordan.
Hey, how's it going, buddy?
Good. Thanks so much for joining the podcast today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
All right. So we're going to switch views here so we can see each other. I'm trying out the headphones today. trying to
My headphones
improve
are working.
trying to improve this audio quality, but I hear you well, and I'm excited to introduce you to my audience. So tell the audience a little, if you don't mind, about your story, because one of the things you said to me not so long ago was, hey, if I can do it, anybody can do it. So that usually means this wasn't just a walk in the park from beginning
Yeah.
to where you are now. So tell us, how did you get started? And maybe share a little bit. You just posted a really great video of yourself as a little kid with a guitar rocking out. So this has been on your mind since you were very young, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I started singing, like actively singing when I was 13. So yeah, about 13 years old. So the full story, I'll kind of give the Coles notes, but so when I was 10, I officially like met my father. He gifted me a guitar. It was his guitar from when he played in a band, and I thought it was so cool. I didn't know how to play it though, and there were no resources at the time unless you took lessons to learn. So um, I there was kind of like a period where I didn't see my dad again for a few years, but then I saw him again around 12, and then I told him that I wanted to play. So he started teaching me how to play some like ACDC, TNT, some like rock and roll and stuff. So I was like really eager to impress dad. So at that point, now there was like guitar tabs online. So I started learning and I was like, I'm going to start a band. And so I started hunting around looking for musicians around the high school and around my junior high. And we found out there was a battle of bands happening. Like we put the band together, and this is about 3 months fast forward. I was like, we should go in the battle of the bands. I'm like, but we need a singer. I'm like, well, I guess I'll sing. So that's what happened. I just decided that I was going to sing. Like a month later, after practicing every day, like 5 days a week, we went in the battle of the bands, and we ended up getting second place, which was pretty cool. I wish I had that recorded because oh my gosh, like I had no idea what I was doing. Looking back, like I could like sing decently in tune, like okay, but my tone was just absolutely awful. But yeah, so that's how it all started, and then I played in bands from about 13 to 19. I played in three different bands, and we were constantly applying for like city battle of the bands, high school battle of the bands, different things like that. We recorded when I was 16 to 19, I started an original rock band. We started writing our own music. And that's when we started like recording EPs and putting out singles and like really pursuing a music career, being like, we're going to do this. We're practicing, 5 days a week, hour and a half every single day. So to go back to my beginning of my journey, though, when I first started, I was like really, really shit, in my opinion. I don't know. Some people were like giving me some pretty positive comments on that video I posted, but I'm like, okay, like it was okay, I guess. But anyways, so it took me about 3 years of putting in the reps before I finally started seeing like progress and results where I started sounding half decent. So three to 4 years is like when I started sounding half decent. And then when I started really practicing a lot, like when I was like, I'm going to be a professional singer and be a rock star and all this stuff, that's when my voice started really making gains, is when I was practicing for like an hour and a half, you know, 5 days a week. You know what I mean? when I was 16, my parents put me in vocal lessons. Well, it was actually piano lessons. I told them I was going to learn piano theory, but I convinced the coach to also teach me singing. And when my parents found out, they took me out of lessons, which is kind of funny. But yeah, anyways, the lessons were like, didn't teach me anything, quite frankly. Like, it was really boring. She wanted me to sing Disney music and like just boring Disney songs and stuff. And I was like, I don't want to sing this stuff. I sing rock and roll, which was quite hilarious. And then when I turned 18 is when I started like training my voice. Like, I started doing exercises and warm-ups and things like that. I had a 23-minute warm-up routine that I got from this vocal coach in my city, or in my province, sorry, named Brian. And that's when I started doing like the scales and all the different sounds and the twangs and all these sounds that I had no idea what they were, but I started actually doing them. And that's when I started to like really notice my voice getting better, like quickly, is when I started like doing the monotonous things that people, try to avoid.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Because in the I think the voice just loves to be used, and doing scales in the beginning when you're learning scales or vocalises, exercises, you really have no idea what you're doing, right?
Yeah. No, totally.
You're just trying to do it.
Yeah,
and just that fact does build coordination. And I think that is valuable. It shouldn't be underestimated. And at what point do you think you need to move beyond that initially, I'm just doing the thing, to getting into, and I'm actually trying to do this in a meaningful way. I know how to do this. I'm applying that. At what point did that start happening for you? I mean, it's really interesting. We just start off, everybody starts off the same way, go to the voice teacher, the voice coach says, and you just do it, and you might be doing all kinds of things wrong, but just the fact of doing something actually helps progress a little.
Yeah. So like, at what point to transition from like basically just singing songs to actually like, okay, now I'm going to like try to actually build mechanisms and focus in on things. Is that what you mean, Philippe?
Yeah, well, a little bit more specific. You said you noticed your voice was developing, right? Because you were doing these exercises and scales. And just in the beginning, I mean, I remember I just did what they said. I didn't really know what I was supposed to think about, what I was supposed to monitor, how to do this exercise the right way. I just kind of made sounds, and that does help. So what point do you recommend people getting a little bit more info on what they're actually doing rather than just sound making?
So I waited way too long. Like, I mimicked that 23-minute vocal exercise routine from like age 19 to 23.
Okay.
Like, that was like my go-to. I was just like, it basically covered like everything that vocal exercises would cover. But I think for a singer, like, if you have the mindset that you want to master the craft one day, and you really, really, really want to like get good at it, I think that's when you need to invest. Like, for example, when I started really investing like thousands and thousands of dollars into my singing growth, it was in between me wanting to be like this famous rock star and me wanting to be a vocal coach. It was literally just because I wanted to master the skill, and I knew that there were more efficient ways of doing it. Because at that point I was doing a sales career, and I knew the importance of training and coaching. I just realized, I'm like, mentorship is good, So if you have that mindset of like, I really, really want to get good at this thing, I think that's when I would look into coaching. Obviously, before that, at the time I was a teenager and my parents weren't willing to help me out and I didn't have the funds. But in my adult years, looking back, I would have started lessons sooner. It would have helped me out so much.
So let's go on from there. So you started your own band, writing music, releasing things. How did that go?
It went good. So this was 13 years ago. Yeah, about 12, 13 years ago. So YouTube was a thing. There was no streaming platforms yet, but you release it on like Apple iTunes and you just like throw your music up on MySpace. That was still a thing at the time. Do you remember MySpace?
Yes.
Nobody watching is going to have any idea.
Well, I remember feeling bad that I didn't have a MySpace account and page, because a lot of my colleagues did, a lot of my friends in the business. I'm like, I should do that, but I never did. And then it went away.
Yeah.
Kind of.
It went well. So we released 3 different EPs. We put them up on all the platforms that were available, and we went and did a lot of shows. So I think we probably did roughly like 25 shows in our career, and it went really well. We sold a lot of physical CDs. We got really good feedback. People liked our music. We had a pretty solid fan base. We were making decent money for kids, like going out doing shows and selling merch and everything like that. It went really well. It was so much fun. I remember looking back on some of those shows we played, like we did some shows for like 500 people, 300 people. The biggest show we did was for 7,500 people. We opened up for a band called Cutlass. I don't know if you've heard of Cutlass. They're a Christian band. The Billy Graham Association threw it on at our local stadium. So we won second place in a city battle of the bands. And then they invited us to come open up for this band. So that was really cool. I just remember like the adrenaline rush you'd get from performing. It was just some of the best memories of my life when I think back. Just top 5 best memories is performing live. So
you stopped doing that. So what happened that made you change gears, or you just stopped for a while with singing? You're like, I'm done with singing.
Well, I never quit singing. I always continued to sing, but I quit pursuing a music career. And so what happened was when I was 19, I joined a sales job and I went away for the summer to go earn money because we were going to go to Vancouver. We were going to work with like, I think his name was like Mike Dawson. He used to do like some of the famous Canadian bands. And so I'm like, we're going to work with like famous people in Canada that work with a lot of the Juno winning artists and stuff. And we needed a lot of money for it. And while I was away in the summer, I was starting to gain momentum as a sales guy. I was doing door-to-door sales. And I started making some decent money. And I was like, oh, maybe if I extend it for an extra month, I'll make so much more money. Not realizing I would burn out and just sit on a curb and not work the entire month. But anyway, so I went behind my band's back as a kid. And I rescheduled our entire sessions like a month later without telling anyone. So stupid to think back on. But so the band found out through the grapevine. And when they found out, they were so angry and they quit, which was kind of expected because they took like a month off of work and like their girlfriends took them off work. And like, it was just a big thing. It was a big deal. So anyways, that was my silly mistake as a kid. So after that, I came back from that summer and the band was like, yeah, we're done. So it was all good. And then I tried doing my own solo thing and I went and applied for like Canada's Got Talent and I went and did like an acoustic thing. And and then that I didn't get a call back. I didn't get chosen for that. And then I was pretty discouraged. I was like, well, maybe this isn't for me. There's one thing that I know about myself is I don't like doing things alone. Like I love community and I love collaboration and I love having a team. Like ever since I've built my team with Mindful Singers, now I have a 5-person team. Like I love my job so much more. Because now I can like, when I'm like overthinking and I'm being an artist and I'm like, what should I do? I can go talk to my team and then they like calm me down and I'm like, oh, good. Like, I really like that. So when I tried doing my independent thing, my solo thing, I was just like, I hated it. I'm like, I don't like doing this alone. This is horrible. I want to have songwriters and buddies and stuff. So that ended up falling apart. I recorded a single. I put it out, same thing on like streaming platforms and whatnot, now that these were available. And I still did some shows. I did karaoke's. I opened up for some bands in my city and not karaoke's, sorry. That's not a show. Open mics. I did open mics and I kind of, casually, and then I would still play at, like parties and I'd pull out the guitar or I'd sing, when on the weekend for some friends and I would sing during the week to myself. I'd always have my acoustic guitar with me. But that was it. After about 20 years old, it just became really casual from 20 to 23. Where I would do my vocal warm-up thing that I told you about for 20 minutes a day. And then like 3-4 days a week. That's why my voice was growing because I was very mindful when I did it. And I was very playful when I did it too. Like I would walk around the room and move my body and make funny sounds. And I would just like laugh at myself and I enjoyed the process. So it wasn't like boring to me. I actually enjoyed it. But yeah, no, that's pretty much it. And then it was pretty slow for about 3 years. I became a full-time salesman from 19 to 27. I did door-to-door sales and I would just like train teams and hire people and manage and all that fun stuff. And my music was just kind of on the back burner until 23. And then I started working with my like dream vocal coach. His name's Brian. I won't say his last name because I don't want him to get mad or anything, but he lives in Calgary, in the city that I live in now. And he's like a famous vocal coach in Canada. He's taught a lot of the idols when that was a thing. And he's taught a lot. Jan Arden, I don't know if you know Jan Arden, famous Canadian singer. And so I worked with him finally. I had the opportunity, and that was amazing because he's just such a great bundle of joy human being, and I had a really great time learning from him, and that kind of like really re-sparked my love for music, was having that opportunity to work with him. And that's when I realized I wanted to be a vocal coach. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite the journey. So you're 23 years old, you start taking voice lessons again, but you kind of decided, I don't want to become a rock star like I thought I wanted to when I was younger.
Yeah.
I want to help other people.
Yeah.
That's going from the egotistical rescheduling the band and all their
Yeah.
lives
Yeah.
and making a dumb mistake like we all do in our youth to kind of moving beyond that into the mission of helping other people. Did you have a core motivation for doing that?
Yeah, that's a good question, Philippe. And so when I was wanting to be like a famous rock star, it came from a place of like wanting to be seen, and like for not the right reasons. And it's funny, in my 20s, I had a lot of guilt for not pursuing, for like cutting off that dream when I was like 20 years old or so and not pursuing it. A lot of guilt came with that. There was a lot of like, oh, maybe you've missed your opportunity. Why would you do that? You're going to look back in your 40s and like regret this. And like there was a lot of like subconscious guilt. But now that I'm 32, well, 32 this month, I realized it was all just ego, and it wasn't, not that ego is like the devil or anything like that, but like it just wasn't coming from the right place. Like it wasn't that I wanted to be like chased by paparazzi and filling stadiums and all this kind of stuff. I just wanted to be seen. I wanted to be recognized, and I think I was trying to fill something inside of me that was like missing from like my childhood, and there was just certain things that I hadn't addressed quite yet until I was in my late 20s that I think was really causing me to feel that way. So when I realized I wanted to be a vocal coach and like kind of shifted the focus, I knew from being a salesman, like when I would have to mentor people, I knew how much, like how rewarding it was to see somebody go from like zero to like crushing it, and like just having so much success and like helping them change their mindset and their skill set and just their way of being and living. And people come back to me even years later and be like, dude, like you have no idea how much you changed my life by like the things you said. So then realizing like, oh wow, I can have like this impact on people. Like I have this, like there's something about me that people like, are drawn to, and they like feel like they can trust me, and they don't have to be fake and lie and stuff like that. Um, Really, I guess, kind of like tied into wanting to be a vocal coach. It was, and yeah, I think that's what it was. I haven't even really thought about this until like this moment. But yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, just me, curious me. No, I think the story is really inspiring. We talk, the title of the podcast today is, when quitting is the right thing for your voice, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that sounds so negative on the surface, but
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to introduce you and hear your story. I know, there's a lot of years, there are a lot more details we're not going to get through today, but
Yeah.
if we just look at that, that's such a long journey.
Mm-hmm.
It's a long journey. It didn't happen in a year or 2 years. We're talking about 23 to 32,
Yeah.
becoming a
Yeah.
coach, and then the phase before then, and then growing up. So this is important because a lot of people want to learn to sing. They want to improve their singing. They might be just starting out. They might already be at a professional level, but
Yeah.
people are wanting to progress.
Mhm.
So how did you learn along the way?
Mhm.
Why did you stick to it, right? We talked about
Yeah.
perseverance. So what can you share with singers and other artists and people listening in about the value of persevering and also knowing when to quit the wrong things? How do we recognize when to quit the wrong things? And
Yeah.
how do we stay motivated? Like you said, you had a phase where you just didn't want to do anything. How did you manage to keep this motivation, this perseverance this whole time? So those two things, maybe you want to
Yeah.
tie those together a little bit.
Sure. Okay. So the first thing I want to say is that when I started, the thing that motivated me is a lot different than what it is today. So when I first started, it was, I just want to impress daddy. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to impress dad. I want to like show him that I can be great at this music thing that he once wanted to do and that he stopped at 30, and look at me, I can do this. So that's kind of where that's where it started. But it's shifted now. It's a lot bigger than that. It's more about the impact that I can have on the world, the impact that I can have on other people, the lives that I can, help and change. So as far as the perseverance for me, one of the biggest mindset shifts that has really, really, really helped me, and you hit the nail on the head, is longevity. So I'd always have these mindsets, and it's just from being ambitious. I think it's a side effect of being an ambitious person, where you just want everything now, or you want it yesterday, or you just want all the results immediately. And I still get like this with my business, with Mindful Singers, where I'm like, I just get so overwhelmed. I'm like, I want it all now. Like, and then I have to remind myself, I'm like, well, no, because these 3 things are going to take 2 months. And then these 5 things are going to take another 3 months. And, and like reminding myself that everything happens in steps and stages, and it doesn't just happen immediately. So the longevity timeline in my mindset now is like, I still have to remind myself I'm not perfect. I've even in this last week, I've had to remind myself, I'm like, remember, Jordan, you're doing this for the next 20, 30 years until AI replaces you. Like you're going to be doing this for a very long time. Are we still good? Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, we're good.
Cool. So when I have fallen into those paths in my life, I took some notes. I'm going to actually look at my notes just so that I have a habit of rambling a little bit. So I just want to make sure I do stay, because I thought about this. I'm like, what is it that I do when I'm in these situations? So when I'm feeling like overwhelmed or lost, or I'm going through a season where I feel like I'm ready to give up, or I just don't want to continue doing the thing that I'm doing, I used to take a full day to myself where I would go in nature. I would throw on some Ludovico and Eunadi. I don't know how to say his name, but he's a beautiful composer, and his music's just so calming. And I listened to this album called Una Mattina. And if you look at my Spotify it's like the most thing I listen to is him. Do you know who he is? Have you heard of him?
I have heard of him.
Oh, beautiful composer. So I listen to his instrumental music, and I'll just go for a walk in nature, and I do my very best to just stop the thinking for a little bit, for like 15 minutes. I just try to be very mindful of the thoughts coming into my mind, just to kind of calm things down, just to be present for a little bit. This is almost like walking meditation. And then before I had a kid, I would take a full day. Now I can only take about 2 hours to do this, but
Yeah,
or else I'm neglecting my child.
yeah,
So
it's true. Becoming a dad is like a different world, right? I have 3 kids, so you can't
yeah,
just disappear like when you're single. It's a little easier to get in the groove, but I'm glad you said that, and being mindful, and obviously that influenced you
yeah,
to create your business name, Mindful Singers.
yeah, totally. So, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect. I still deal with fears and anxieties and all that kind of stuff. Mindfulness just means to like observe what's happening in the moment without negative judgment. That's truly what mindfulness is. So I'll take that time to be mindful, and then I'll start to kind of notice as I'm calmer, usually more constructive thoughts will start coming through my mind, and I'll start to ask myself, you know, why am I even doing this? Like, for example, like, why am I doing Mindful Singers? Like, I've been doing it for almost 4 years now. Why is this important to me? And what has changed since when I first started doing it to now? And are my motivations still the same? Are the things that are going to push me forward 5 years from now still the same? Am I going to be happy if I keep doing things the way that I'm doing them? And to relate this to singing, like, for example, I meet singers that like, they're either ride or die. It's like, either I'm going to practice an hour and a half a day, or I'm not going to practice at all. And just, I remind myself too, like, I'm going to go through seasons. You know what I mean? Like, last week, my son was in the hospital till 7 a.m. I had to pull an all-nighter. I was really exhausted. I could not work at my normal capacity. And I just have to remind myself that there's like these mini seasons that we go through in life that are out of our control, that you just have to kind of keep moving forward. So the next thing I do, once I've asked myself, like, why am I doing this? Why is this important to me? Can I do this for the next 5 years? I'm just kind of like pondering this stuff as in a calm state at this point. Then I will either write it down on my phone. By the way, while this is all happening, I'm not checking. I don't have notifications turned on my phone, period. But like, I'm not checking Facebook. I'm not checking Instagram. I'm not distracting myself. I'm being present. And then I might write this stuff down in a journal or in my notes on my phone, like what answers are coming to me. And then I ask myself, what do I need to do like each day to like get the kind of results that I'm looking for? It's like, I want to work on my vibrato. I want to be able to sing All of Me by John Legend and feel confident singing that song, in the next 2 months or whatever the goal is that I'm working on. I'll write down those goals and then I'll break them down into like the little things that I need to do. Like, what do I need to do to make sure that I'm consistent? Well, warm up for 5 minutes or 10 minutes before I sing. What do I need to do to make sure that I'm, hitting that high note in the bridge at the end? Oh, I need to make sure that I work on my belt, and I'll break down the things that I need to do, like the micro goals that I need to do to accomplish the bigger goal. And then I just ask myself, what am I able to do each day? And some days it might be like 10 minutes of singing in the shower. And some days it might be like a really focused, 30 to 45-minute practice session in my studio in a space that I feel comfortable. But it's not going to be the perfect scenario every single day, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Totally makes sense. So you're mindful, how you take time to be mindful. You take time to calm your mind. You continually reevaluate your perspective and goals in your journey. You clearly write down or identify what your main goals are to get there. And then you go down to the next level and say, what are the micro steps that that will allow me to reach those goals? I don't know. I was watching something, I think another Canadian, Jordan Peterson, he just said a lot of these patients it's too big for them. If they're trying to make a change, it's so painful to make that change. So just that he recommends to them, just take the smallest, easiest step first.
Yeah.
And that's like the micro goal, right?
Yeah.
If I want to gain 20 pounds of muscle and get a 6-pack and I want it now, like you, everybody would like to do that. Take a pill, boom, here I am, right? But that's painful to go through that process. If you look at the whole process, very painful. Totally. If you just take the first step, get up, get dressed, and go, that's not so painful.
Totally. And you'll blow your mind. Like, you'll blow your mind if you just do something long enough and like you're doing it like mindfully with like for example, like what not to do. Let's say you're working on a song and it's like a pretty easy song. Let's say I'm going to say like All the Small Things by Green Day or by Blink-182. Sorry. Very easy song to sing. One of the first songs I ever learned. It's probably not a good idea to like choose that song and then only work on that song for a year. Like, I've met singers who literally have a 3-song repertoire and they've been singing for like 2 years. And like, they only sing those 3 songs. And then when they sing them, they crush it. Like, they would go get a wowing round of applause at any karaoke night. You know what I mean? But they're scared to work on anything else. Probably because they put in so much effort into those 3 songs that they're terrified to move on to something else. But that's when you're like kind of like almost reverse practicing. You're not actually practicing. You're just kind of like massaging your voice, if that makes sense. So it's like doing a really gentle lip trill for 5 minutes and then like being like, all right, I warmed up my voice today, and I'm good to go. Like, you didn't actually like work on like the 18 other things your voice needs to actually sing an entire song, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Can we just jump in on this? Because I think this will be very valuable for anybody listening. So there's value in both, right? There is so much value in working on a song over time and making those micro steps and micro improvements and getting that song to where you can crush it. You can wake up at 3 a.m. and crush it. You can just always crush it. But we also need to take everything that we're learning in that long process and apply it to other new songs that we're building at the same time. Why is that so important for you? Why would you tell singers to do that?
To like transition and like move on
To
to
do,
something else.
yeah, to do both,
Yeah,
keep
yeah, yeah,
working on that. Just like there's your
yeah,
hyper focus now,
yeah.
but put it over on the side of I'm going to keep working on
Mhm.
this, but
Yeah,
I want to be able to sing more than 3 songs in my life.
totally. So, okay, to go on the first thing, so like really dialing in on song. If there's one thing that I know about being a vocal coach, that one of the biggest things of becoming a vocal coach is like the layers of frequencies that your brain just kind of like gets like you start to hear sounds that you didn't even realize were there. The more you fine tune your ear. So the more you work on a song and you learn all the little nuances and all the little microcosms of that song, you are adding that to like you're downloading that to your own voice. You're like making that a part of like who you are as a singer. And I promise you, you're not going to sound like the other vocalist, especially if you're singing in a healthy way where your voice isn't squeezing and you're not like forcing things to happen. It's going to sound like you because you have your own sonic fingerprint. So like there's been songs that I've worked on for years, like thinking out loud. Like I have like my karaoke jams that I go sing karaoke and get my round of applause as well. Like I
I,
have those songs I'm obsessed over.
I love the
And
sonic fingerprint. I'm gonna definitely use that sonic fingerprint. That is such a cool term.
yeah, I can't remember where I heard that. Yeah, I think it was Tamara Beatty. Yeah, she was one of my mentors early on. Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah,
Okay, so yeah, anyways, so like you're just gonna keep downloading more information, especially if you're learning from singers like Ed Sheeran, Jason Mraz, like Sam Smith. I'm just naming male vocalists at the moment, like Adele. Like if you focus on one of those people's songs for like 2 years, like you're gonna keep picking up new things. Like there's so much depth to their voices. It's crazy. But you also have to move on to something else because there are other things to learn from other people as well that you can adapt and grow from and develop and add to your own sound. And it's yeah, like that's what I think. What do you think, Philippe? You
yeah,
can go on.
absolutely. Well, I've experienced, I don't, I've performed well over 4,000 performances that I was paid for.
Wow.
So I've been doing the business for a long time. And
Yeah.
I worked, sometimes I'll work on a song for a very long time if I've got advance notice. Like I had this role coming up. It was a year out, and I literally worked on the main song for this role for 10 months and just
Mhm.
working on all those layers. But I had another 3 shows to prepare in the meantime. But I remember I was young, I'd never worked that long on one song before. And it just when I got there and got to the performance, I just had so much calm about me that it just helped so much with the
Yeah.
nerves. And I learned
Hmm.
so much in that process of just really developing one song over a very, very long period of time. But I think we need to, everything, like you said, we're going to discover new layers. We're going to
Yeah.
develop new skills, and we should be applying those to fresh repertoire. It's like
Sure.
just
Yeah.
lining them up.
Mhm.
Here's this song, keep working on it. The next
Yeah.
song, the next song, the next
Yeah.
song. So not just waiting till one song is perfect. And even if you're just working on one song with your coach for maybe 2, 3 months, there's no shame in that. But you can be on your own, starting to work on other material and taking what
Yeah.
you learn
Hmm.
to apply it there as well.
Yeah.
So, what can singers do today to feel good about their journey, to feel good about perseverance, staying in the game? Because a lot of singers, you're a coach as well. People will come and say, "Oh, I've got a show in 3 weeks, and I've got to perform. So I want to take like 10 lessons with you." They have this expectation that they're going to be able to take lessons and immediately, in a very short period of time, make this huge leap of progress. And granted, they're going to be better off if doing that than without the help. But
Yeah.
how do we keep committed to our journey as singers? And what has being committed for so many years taught you?
Okay. I'm probably gonna have to get you to repeat some parts of that question, but to start, the Oh, dang.
Yeah,
Can you summarize that question for me again? There was like
sure.
3 parts.
It's
Yeah.
not always easy to
Yeah.
maintain your motivation, to stay committed for the long game, because we want results now. So
Yeah. Yeah.
what kind of a tip, mindset tip, or personal experience can you share that can help singers just realize, hey, just need to, it's time of the game. Be
Yeah.
calm with this.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I would say so many different ways to answer that question, but one thing that comes to mind is depending on your goal as a vocalist, like whether you want to be a really good, karaoke star kind of thing, or you want to like make a living from your music, or if you just want to do it casually, for fun, for yourself, like depending on your motivation, the thing that's going to drive you is going to be a little bit different. So what I would say is like have the longevity mindset where don't just think like, oh, I have to reach this goal in 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, because it's not going to happen with singing. Like I said, it took me 4 years to have like decent tone, good pitch, like, and there was still a lot of missing parts. You know what I mean? So having a longer mindset, and also if you do want to make a living from music, you have to get out of the ageism mindset of being a musician. So in the music industry, there's a lot of ageism because the music industry has been controlled by a very small group of males for like a very long time. And it's typically people from like 18 to 25 who are like absolutely dominating in the music industry. So like getting out of that ageism mindset where it's like, no, there's the internet now. If I'm really skilled and I'm really putting on a mesmerizing, beautiful performance and people can connect with me, I can do this at any age because of the internet. You know what I mean? Like I'm seeing lots of artists on TikTok and Instagram that are in their 30s and 40s, and they're just absolutely killing it out there because of the internet. You know what I mean? So the reason I say that, Philippe, is because after working with over 300 singers one-on-one, like there is an ageism mindset for the people who want to do the music career. Like they're like, I'm almost 19 years old. I just don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. It's like because of this like mindset. So kind of like erasing that mindset of like, oh, I have to crush this by 23 or I'll never make it. Because the mindset is usually I want to get signed by a record label, which is also not necessary. You know what I mean? Like it's just not necessary in 2024 to make it big. So that's what I would say.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. I was in the musical business for decades. So, and a lot of the older female colleagues would just say there's no more roles left. So if your career is basically reduces by more than half of potential as you can play in the business after 28. So there is some reality to that. And just being in the business a long time, and you see all these young artists, 18 to 25, just come
Yeah.
in, pop up, and disappear.
Yeah.
Come in, pop up, and disappear. I think
Yeah.
we can have a whole podcast on how the industry basically uses people and burns them out because they don't really care. All they need to do is make money off them for a few years, and then
Yeah.
next. There's always
Yeah.
1,000, 10,000 talented people in the background. So
Yeah.
if you don't have that, getting rid of that ageism mindset, like you said, if you don't have the mindset that I am going to be doing this all my life because I love it,
Yeah.
and
Totally.
this is my journey, you might get burned out in that phase and disappear,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially as an artist. But
Yeah.
I have a lot of colleagues who are, female colleagues who stayed very, very relevant in the business well beyond that age. And look at Beyonce and Taylor Swift. I mean, they're killing
Yeah.
it, right?
Totally.
They're way above 28 now, but
Yeah.
they had that longevity mindset.
Yeah.
So,
Totally. Yeah.
hey, go
Look
ahead.
at
Go ahead.
look, I mean Aerosmith too. Like all the old rock bands still fill stadiums too, right? The Rolling Stones and I wanted to say something about the trying new songs. So to go back a little bit. So when you have put in like a really long time into learning a song and you've like really mastered it because you've worked on every little nuance, every little detail, when you move on to new songs, like you will be blown away by how quickly you'll learn those new songs.
Yes.
So my students are always so surprised when they watch me like learning a song with them because they're like, holy shit, how are you like picking up on this so quick? And it's like, oh, it's because I've done this 10,000 times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when I got my Spotify like year in like my year summary, it was like I did 1,500 songs. You know what I mean? Like I listened to 1,500 songs, and I didn't know any of those artists on that list. It was just from students recommending it. So yeah, when you just do it over and over and over, it becomes really, really easy. Just naturally becomes very easy.
Yes. Awesome. Okay, we're gonna wrap up this podcast today, but we're gonna keep talking. This conversation is super valuable. And what we do after the live stream and the podcast is we shift into a private call where anybody that's watching this now and our community can get on and ask questions, interact with us, and we're just going to continue to evolve this conversation. And it's really fun because you get to work with us. And last time, happens every time. People ask questions, and then we say, okay, we'll sing a little bit, and then they get some personal guidance and feedback. And that's probably one of the things that I get asked most on direct messages, right, from people I don't know. It's like, hey, how can I do this? How can I sing this note? I'm struggling with this. Could you tell me what's wrong with my voice? Well, this is your chance, right? The link's in the description. Just click on the link and come and join us every Tuesday for a live Q&A call with myself and my co-hosts. All right, Jordan, thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm going to say goodbye to Jordan, and we'll see you in about 7 minutes in our private Zoom call.
Sounds good. Awesome. Thanks everyone. Thanks for being here. Take care.
Thank you. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. This has been really a great conversation, and I hope it's allowed you to get to know Jordan a little bit better and inspired you to take action and plan for longevity. Singing, you should be enjoying singing your whole life, right? You don't have to become Superman tomorrow, all right? You will reach your goals with time in the game, perseverance, and the right mindset. Join me and join Jordan. Join us both on our private Zoom call. Click the link in the description, and we'll see you very soon. We'll see you next week